Hey everybody, it's GommonX and welcome back to another Magic Arena event. Today we have the FNM at Home event for the week, the Mastermind format. Now this is a format that has been on Arena before, but it's been a little while and it's a really crazy format, so I will go over what the format is like in general. So everyone starts with the exact same deck, however, it's a 200 card deck with no lands in it and every single card is a different card. So there's not a single game that you will play of this format that will go exactly like a game that you have had previously. It's an incredibly random format, incredibly crazy format, and you're probably thinking, if you haven't played the format before, how on earth am I going to cast anything when I have a giant 5-colored pile and there's no lands in it? Well, the big gimmick of this format is that you can discard any card in your hand once per turn to create a land token that can tap for a mana of any color. So you have to decide what cards are not going to be useful for you during that game and turn those cards into your mana base to cast the rest of the cards that you're actually going to be trying to win the game with. So it's a really weird format, really interesting format. It's definitely pretty fun, and I think that there's probably a lot of strategy that can go into it if you want to get good at the format. For me personally, I really just hop into these events to grab the rewards from them, and then that's usually all I do of the format, because it's a bit too complex for my little pea brain, but we'll see. We'll see if I can grab these wins in a reasonable amount of time, at least in this video here. So if I can get these 2 wins within the first probably 4 games, I'd be surprised. That'd be a 50-50 win rate. That would mean I'm half decent at figuring out what to do with infinite choices, really, in this format. So I don't think you ever want to mulligan in this format, most likely, just because you always have a good selection of lands and non-lands, because every single one of these cards can be used as a land. And you always have a good display of colors, because every land token that you make does tap for 1 mana of any color. So I'm going to keep this hand. I'm not sure how much I like it. There are some cards here that I'm just not 100% sure about, like the Ozolith. Don't know how many +1/+1 counters or different kinds of counters I'm going to have in this deck, seeing as it's 200 different cards from all the colors of the game. I suppose you really want to look at what kind of synergies you currently have in your hand when deciding what cards to keep and what cards to turn into lands. So, we do have +1/+1 counters from Makeshift Battalion, we do have a +1 counter from Domir's Ambush, but I still think the Ozolith is probably just a little bit too narrow to be that useful, so that'll be my first discard, grabbing me my first Abundant Falls. And unfortunately, I may have to cut this game from the video because it looks like our opponent may be AFK. If that's the case and I get a free win here, I will go ahead and do 2 full games. Looks like our opponent has arrived. Here they are, dropping down a turn 1 Rigging Runner as a 1/1 first strike. If they attacked before they played that, it would have come into play with a +1/+1 counter on it. So now I'm going to discard Chandra's Incinerator. It does have a decent ability, but I have to wait to play that till I hit 6 mana anyway. So I'm just going to drop that down. I kind of want to drop this Rimrock Knight, but a 3/1 that can't block isn't very good against a 1/1 first striker. They can just hold that back. So I'm kind of considering just holding Rimrock Knight to discard that as my next land, because I do like Cloud Conceer, Makeshift Battalion, Faith's Fetters, and Vraska. Vraska's probably okay. So our opponent has discarded an Hour of Devastation there. They're probably trying to get in on the aggro here. They don't really want a board sweeper when they seem to be the first ones playing all the creatures this game. And there's a Tetsuko Umezawa Fugitive that'll make the Rigging Runner unblockable. All their 1 power and 1 toughness creatures are unblockable. Alright, so we go to my turn. Ooh, Foulmire Knight is not bad. We can spend 3 mana to draw a card and lose a life off of it, or we can just play it as a 1/1 Death Touch. None of their creatures can be blocked right now, though. So I'm going to discard the Rimrock Knight for now and play a Cloud Conceer so I can draw a card here. Maybe I can draw into my own kind of Wrath effect like an Hour of Devastation that we've seen our opponent discard, because I expect my opponent to be trying to get somewhat aggressive here if they're planning on discarding their Hour of Devastation, as they have. Alright, so no land yet from our opponent. Gonna go for a post-combat play here. I feel like it's almost never correct to not play a land, but maybe they really like all 6 of their cards, and they're hoping to draw into something that they don't want. Looks like they're discarding a Deafening Clarion, so another board wipe effect, another effect that can just deal damage to all creatures, and they drop down a Glorious Anthem. So our opponent is going in on the aggressive strategy. Glorious Anthem, a little bit of a nombo with the Tetsuko Umezawa now, because now any 1 toughness or 1 power creatures they have would have 2 power or 2 toughness, so we don't have to worry about unblockability anymore, and for that reason I think I'm going to go ahead and use my Foulmire Knight now. I am going to discard this Giant Growth. I don't think I'm in a position to be making great use out of combat tricks. I'm just going to draw the card of the Foulmire Knight and drop it down to block and trade with Tetsuko Umezawa. I am going to attack with Cloud Conceer because the Rigging Runner does have First Strike still, even if it's not unblockable, so I can't block the Rigging Runner well with anything. So I may as well attack him with the Cloud Conceer. Our opponent did discard their Hornet Queen. We've got one of our own ready for the late game here. I think I am going to try to keep that in my hand, keep that for a nice late game play, because I actually have a strange but really cool combo here, which is Hornet Queen and Vraska, because Vraska says whenever one of our Death Touch creatures deals damage to a player planeswalker, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and Hornet Queen is 5 death-touching creatures with flying off of 1 card, so if we can put those 2 cards together, that could be a really fun combo. Unfortunately, we are under quite a bit of pressure here, because now we're down to 12, thanks to the Bone Crusher Giant killing our blocker. 2/2 First Strike and a 2/4 out there. We could cast a Faith's Fetters on the 2/4, but then they could very easily just play something scarier later. I kind of want to just drop Vraska here and a Hunted Witness, just have a lot of blockers. And for that, I think I'll discard Gutter Snipe. We don't have any... I mean, we have 1 sorcery in our hand, so we don't have a lot of instants and sorceries to be getting value out of this ability, so it's kind of just a 3-mana 2/2 in our current hand. So we'll discard that one, drop a Vraska. She will create a 1/1 Death Toucher. And then we will also drop a Hunted Witness to just make a lot of blockers for her. And Hunted Witness, I will plan on chump blocking the First Striker with Hunted Witness and blocking Tetsuko Umezawa with our Death Touching token. If they have another removal spell, I suppose they'll get to kill Vraska, but we are still 2 turns away from the Hornet Queen, and none of the death-touching tokens off of Hornet Queen have haste anyway, so we're actually 3 turns away from getting any +1/+1 counters onto our Hornets. So I don't really want to go all in on that combo to the point where I'm holding back here just in case they have a removal spell. If they have a removal spell, I think we'll let them poke our Vraska. If they want to spend a removal spell to do that, because then they'd be spending a removal spell on just a 1/1 here. Alright, opponent is heading into combat. We'll see what their decision is here. They are going to send the team in at Vraska, so we'll go ahead and try to kill Tetsuko Umezawa and chump block the First Striker. It's not even that big of a deal if we kill Tetsuko Umezawa or not, but we are going to put the Death Toucher there because we have no chance of killing the First Striker. Okay, so they'll just spend a pump spell to save Tetsuko Umezawa. That's fine. It's just a 2/4. Again, we don't have to worry about it giving anything unblockable thanks to the Glorious Anthem out on our opponent's field. We do get another chump blocker out of our Hunted Witness dying. So we do have a 1/1 life-linking chump blocker. We'll throw that on Tetsuko Umezawa the next time that attacks. I do get my 6th mana this turn. I'll probably discard Soul Diviner. I mean, if I'm playing a really late game plan, I could keep Soul Diviner just to start removing +1/+1 counters from my my Hornets. Ooh, wow. Shark Typhoon, though, that can be so incredibly powerful. Every time we cast a non-creature spell, we can get an XX flying Shark token. So we can really just set up a Shark Typhoon this turn, and then next turn do a massive turn with Faith Fetters and Domri's Ambush if they don't have Artifact or Enchantment removal and they only have one card in hand. That seems good to me. So I will go ahead and discard this Soul Diviner. We're not going to be trying to do that kind of synergies. Now we're just all in on the Shark Typhoon plan because it's such a powerful card. Sorry, I was just trying to make sure I discarded that instead of playing it. I was getting really nervous there that I was going to do that the wrong way. I could have held all my creatures back to just make sure that Vraska survives, but I don't think I'm at the point where I'm wanting to chump block with Cloudkin Seer. If they really want to kill Vraska and they don't have a removal spell, they'll have to send everyone at it, and then I'm not taking any damage that turn. So that's fine with me. And if they're going to send everything at me, I do get to throw a Death Toucher onto their Unicorn and just take 1 damage basically, because I can chump block and gain 1 life, and then take 2 after I've gained 1. So yeah, next turn is going to be absolutely massive. If they can't get rid of Shark Typhoon, we get to gain 4 life, shut off their best creature, and get a 4/4 Flying Shark. And then we get to put a +1/+1 counter on one of our creatures, kill another one of their creatures, and get a 2/2 Flying Shark. So that'll be massive. That's even if we don't play a land next turn. If we do play a land next turn, we could just opt to play a Hornet Queen instead and just have 5 Death Touchers out. Which would also be pretty safe. So it looks like they are going to just play a removal spell on one of our creatures and come at us. I think that the Face Fetters Domri's Ambush play is plenty safe. And Emil the Blessed, its ability for 3 mana, can exile another one of their creatures and return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So, if we're going to Faith Fetters anything, it's gotta be the Emil, because if we put that onto any of their other creatures, they could exile it and bring it back anyway. And I will Domri's Ambush now with my... kind of want to just kill their first striker here, actually, and spread out my power and toughness here. I've got a 3/2, a 4/4, and a 2/2. And we will discard the Makeshift Battalion, so I have all the mana I need for a Hornet Queen next turn. And just sending in with flying, they only have a 2/4 to attack with now, and I have a 4/4 to block that. They do have 2 cards in hand, as well as a Bone Crusher Giant as a 4/3, whenever they want to play that. They discard a Hamlet-back Goliath for mana. Since that does cost 7 mana, they only had 5 out at the time. That is definitely correct. Now they have 6 mana on their field. I suppose it depends on what's in their hand. If their hand's just like a bad 1 mana card, then maybe discarding Hamlet-back Goliath was not correct. But I assume it's got to be some other 6 or 7 mana card here. Hamlet-back Goliath is actually, it's a really fun card, but it's not nearly as strong as it looks. It looks incredibly powerful because it comes in as a 6/6, decent size for the 7 mana, and then it just gets absolutely massive the longer it stays on the battlefield. The real problem with it is that it doesn't really win the game very well by itself. Not only do you need to play a lot of other stuff to make it bigger, it doesn't have trample, flying, any kind of evasion whatsoever, so I could just chump block it with like a 1/1 Death Touch token from Vraska or a 1/1 Death Touch token from Hornet Queen. Just a lot of really easy ways to block the Hamlet-back Goliath. It does look like our opponent is just going to cast the Bone Crusher Giant there. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 flying damage this turn. What on earth is this? It said create a token that's a copy, except when it enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 creature you don't control. Okay. Alright, weird card. I'm just going to drop the Hornet Queen, because now I'll have a million flyers, and every time they hit our opponent, they'll get a +1/+1 counter. And we'll just attack with the rest of our flyers, and if they don't have like a Wrath effect again, then that will be game. If they don't have another Hour of Devastation, Deafening Clarion type card, to get rid of all our creatures. I think Mythos of Aluna most likely would have been a little bit of a better play there. It's just, alright, it's a whole lot of text. I didn't want to have to think about all that. But if we did that, we could just like copy their unicorn. So then we'd have 5/5 of our own. It would get to fight something when it comes into play, so we would fight their... excuse me. We would fight their Bone Crusher Giant. We would really clear their board out, and we would get a 4/4 flyer from our Shark Typhoon. So the Mythos probably would be a little bit better there. I do scry all 3 to the top, draw them all. We'll see if there's anything for 1 mana that'll save them. Maybe they put Fog in this deck. That would be funny. Fog is 1 green mana to prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Unfortunately for our opponent, it looks like that is not a card in these Mastermind decks. So that is going to be our first game and our first win in the Mastermind FNM at Home event. So let's see what we get for our random rare reward. Alright. I don't actually own every rare on Arena. I do own quite a bit. Apparently I owned whichever random rare I got that time. I was really hoping that it would be weighted towards cards that you don't have yet, because then I'd just be getting some Jumpstart rares or some Amonkhet Remastered rares, because I have barely any of those cards. I've just done, I think, like three Amonkhet Remastered drafts. So there's plenty of rares from Amonkhet Remastered that I still need. Anyways, on to the next game. I'm just going to discard Village Rites. I don't feel like that is anything I'm ever going to be wanting to do. This hand is like so close to something that I should mulligan. I feel like mulliganing is fairly correct, but like, I mean, look at this. Like, just 7 mana, 6 mana. All these cards are so specific too. Village Rites, I have to sacrifice a creature to use it, and I don't have a lot of early game creatures. I have one. Just this 3 mana Knight of Amun. Teferi's Time Twist is just weird. There we go, there's an Orzhov Enforcer. Now I've got an early game play. I discard Sarkhan's Catharsis and drop Orzhov Enforcer. Now I feel a little bad about discarding Village Rites, but when the only creature that I had I could have sacrificed for was a Knight of Autumn, I don't think it was a good idea to keep that. But there was definitely an argument for just like discarding Yidaro instead, because he's just so expensive. A Johnny's Pridemate. I could play in a Johnny's Pridemate and then play a Knight of Autumn next turn and gain life off of that coming into play. But I could also just play a Knight of Autumn right now as a 4/3. I think we'll discard Teferi's Time Twist. That card just seems very, very specific. It lets you bounce one of your cards, basically. I guess I can just cycle Yidaro and try to maybe cycle Yidaro. How many times? 4 times? That's pretty unlikely in a 200-card singleton deck. That's probably wrong. I'm just going to drop a 4/3 Knight of Autumn and pass the turn. The alternative would be to play a Johnny's Pridemate as a 2/2, and the next turn I could gain 4 life off of Knight of Autumn, but that play leaves me with a 2/1 and a 3/3. I think a 2/2 and a 4/3 is a little bit better than a 2/1 and a 3/3. Even if the 3/3 could potentially get bigger later. It's just more power and toughness this way, in the immediate sense. Not if I draw a Conclave Mentor. That doubles the, well, it adds an additional +1/+1 counter onto anything that I add counters onto. But it's a little too late for that, unfortunately. I have already thrown counters onto that, but I could throw Pridemate and Conclave Mentor out to try to get counters that way. I will attack with Knight of Autumn, because their only way to kill it would be to block with both creatures. They do just chump block with the Sky Scanner. I don't think that a Johnny's Pridemate or Conclave Mentor help me pressure my opponent in any way on this board, because they have this 2/3 blocker out. They can block either of these creatures and kill it without my creature killing theirs. So I'm never going to want to attack with these, even if I throw them on the board right now. So I think it's better to just hold up this counter spell, because throwing out 2 2/2s right now doesn't actually help. At least not in the immediate sense. It would be nice, like, if I threw those out and then I drew into some life gain, but All of that is depending on what I draw out of, once again, 200 basically random cards. We are 2 mana away from Arlen. I think that'll be our late game plan. Dungeon Geist is pretty powerful, and I don't have any removal in my hand, so I think I do have to counterspell that. Dungeon Geist is a 3/3 flyer, and when it comes into play, it taps down one of your opponent's creatures until it leaves play. So they could keep my Knight of Autumn tapped forever with that. I don't particularly like that. So we'll just shut that off with that. I'll send for 5. Charming Prince is actually pretty interesting here. I think I will discard Johnny's Pridemate. Play Conclave Mentor. I think I'm slightly more likely to draw into more +1/+1 counter cards than more life gain cards. I would rather save Charming Prince to exile one of my creatures and then return it, just in case I want to destroy one of my opponent's artifacts or enchantments. I would rather do that than just play it and gain the 3 life from, or to trigger a Johnny Pridemate's ability. Alright, well, that's unfortunate. Deafening Clarion is going to kill all my stuff, so at least there I didn't play the Charming Prince, so I didn't get like a million for 1. Ooh, and a Shark Typhoon? Okay, now I'm definitely discarding the Charming Prince, and we're going to start with Shark Typhoon. This is exactly the kind of card that I would want to blink my Knight of Autumn to kill. So that is the kind of thing I was setting up for with the Charming Prince with the Knight of Autumn on board. But I guess we'll just play one of our own, and then next turn we get to play Arlen. And in casting Arlen, we'll create a 6/6 flying shark. And then obviously we'll do all the great stuff that Arlen does. We'll get a 3/3 wolf for a few turns. Ideally, I suppose that's if our opponent doesn't immediately kill Arlen, then we'll just get 1 3/3 wolf. So our opponent has very much got the card advantage this game. That is what has me quite worried. They have managed to kill multiple of our cards off of just one of theirs with cards like the Deafening Clarion. They've drawn a few more cards with stuff like Sky Scanner. That was pretty nice. Discarding an Arrestor's Zeal to get their 6th mana, and they drop a Burning Sun's Avatar. 6/6, when it comes into play, it does 3 damage to one of our creatures and 3 damage to us. So, we don't have any creatures out, so that's just going to be the 3 damage to us. Now we will cast Arlen, get a 6/6 flying shark, and poop out a nice little 3/3 wolf as well. May as well. And I'm not going to discard the Skizzik until I know for sure if I need a 7th mana, because if I don't, if I just draw into a 1 or 2 mana card next turn, I would much rather cast this and then cast whatever I draw as well. I feel like a 5/3 trample haste for 5 is very likely to be better than another land. The only situation it wouldn't be is if I draw into a 7 mana card. Our opponent is down to 4 cards here, but 4 cards is plenty to try to deal with what I currently have. If they have 2 removal spells, one of which that can hit a Planeswalker, they can basically get rid of all my threats. The only problem is I would still have a Shark Typhoon sitting on the board at that point, but I'd be getting bashed into by a 6/6. Ooh, they are going to send Burning Sun's Avatar at Arlen. That is probably my least favorite thing they could do here. So I can trade with my flying 6/6, but they're down to 15, and I really want to put pressure on them here, so I think I just want to chump block with the 3/3. And then keep making 3/3s with Arlen and try to just do that while I hit them with the 6/6, because this 6/6 kills them in 3 turns, and they need a flyer to block it. And that's a makeshift battalion. That's not going to be a flyer. Alright, and there's a Tybalt, another non-creature spell. Fantastic draw to work with the Shark Typhoon. Again, not going to discard the Skizzik, but unfortunately not going to play it either because I don't have enough mana now. Since I will be casting Tybalt instead. A 3/3 flyer is much better than a 5/3 trample right now. 5/3 trample would just trade with Makeshift Battalion. The 3/3 flyer gets in for guaranteed damage. And it actually gets in for exactly enough to just kill them next turn if they don't have removal or a flyer. We've got 9 unblockable damage on the current board. Any reach creature, removal spell, or flying creature saves them here, but I think I'm in a very good position. Shark Typhoon is just such a powerful card, and it's kind of insane to get that as our win condition. In our first 2 games in a 200 card singleton deck, we got it twice in a row. And this game we've only seen 14 of the cards. So, I mean, we're not even a tenth of the way through the deck. And we've gotten Shark Typhoon again, which is pretty crazy. So I'm going to chump block with the Devil token this time. I'd rather save the larger token, that 3/3, for later. And when the Devil dies, I do get to poke them for 1 point of damage, make it so I have even more than exact lethal now. Now I can hit them to -1 with my Flying Sharks. Good old Sharknado coming in hot. There's a Huatli Warrior Poet. That's a red-white card. It might be able to gain life. It can. +2 can gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. But oh my god, I forgot the War of the Spark Planeswalkers are busted. They all have a static ability that it's really easy to forget, and Tybalt's makes it so your opponents can't gain life. So unless they have a 2-mana instant here, that is a brutal way to end that game. Tybalt's secondary ability actually coming into play very handedly there. So surprisingly enough, I really didn't expect that, but we've gotten our 2 wins for our 2 random reward rares in the first 2 games. So pretty phenomenal there. Let's see what we got, and then we'll open our core set 2021 pack to finish off the video. Looks like we got a Mythos of Nethroi. See, I don't even have all the Ikoria cards. But I'm pretty close in Ikoria, I think. Amonkhet Remastered and Jumpstart both pretty far away, and I've played a massive amount of Jumpstart. That set is just so massive that it's really difficult to collect everything from it. Amonkhet is brand new, very fresh though, so that is why I don't have a lot of that. Anyways, as always at the end of the video, I would like to thank you all very much for watching, and if you want to see more of this content, just stick around on the channel. Leave it a like, a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. See what we get as our rare. Sublime Epiphany, the very annoying counterspell, at least in Limited. I haven't seen this a lot in Constructed, but I also don't play a lot of Constructed, but this card can easily just give you immense amounts of value against your opponent. They play whatever their big threat is in the late game, and then you counter it, make another copy of one of your creatures, draw a card, bounce one of their other permanents. Brutal card. Absolutely insane. Really hard to win if your opponent manages to pull this off. So, anyways, as I was saying before, thank you very much for watching. Stick around for the next video. I will see you all again very soon for more Magic Arena content.